Hi folks, if you've been watching this little mini series, I went to my little local hardware shop and I came away with a few knives, and we've already looked at a couple of them, these two here. This one here has some things in common, some things different, but I thought it was would be worth pulling this one out to show you. And we'll come to this one in the next video. But these ones we've already seen. So these are solid plastic handles with nested liners with a spring frame. So it's basically the inside of these knives is a single piece of metal built, bent, a flat sheet of metal about sort of 3 inches long by about inch and a half wide, and it's bent into a U channel, and then little cuts are made into it so that the back part forms a spring and the side parts form the liners to the knife. Then the big brass pivot is put through, big brass rivet is put through as a pivot, and that's that. So this one, don't know where it was made. There's nothing on it to say, but it's made by CK. It could be made in Italy or it could be made in China. It's very difficult to know for certain. The fact that it's CK, I mean, it could be Italian. This one was definitely made in Italy, but made in exactly the same way with a single plastic handle. You know, it's a slightly different pattern, but the method of construction is exactly the same. Except the blade grind is a chisel grind. Now this one has the name of another of the British knife makers, Whitby. And Whitby is a town on the Yorkshire coast, which is the northeast sort of, or northish east part of England. And it's famous for a couple of things. Back in Victorian times, Whitby was the source of the stone jet, which was used for jewellery when people were in mourning for at least a year after a husband had died. A widow would be expected to wear widow's weeds, black clothes, you know, the classic Queen Victoria after Albert died sort of thing. And her jewellery would be made out of jet, which is a hard black stone. I think it's actually obsidian I might be wrong about that. My O-level geology was a long time ago. But the other thing that Whitby is famous for, it has there's an abbey as well, which is famous for. But it's also where Dracula, in the book Dracula, Bram Stoker has Dracula arrive in Britain on a ship which effectively sails straight into the harbour, literally straight into the harbour at Whitby in the middle of a storm, and Dracula steps off and everyone else is dead. But that's in the original book, and then he goes to London. So as a result of the mourning connection and the Dracula connection, Whitby is where Goths go in Britain. They have an annual convention every year. So you know, if you know the pale faces and the dark eye makeup and the black hair and so forth, that's where it all comes from, and that's where they all go to. However, I don't think this knife has anything at all to do with Whitby, except that it's made by Whitby company, or made for them anyway. Again, it's one of these solid plastic handles with nested inside it a metal frame and a big brass pin. It differs from the other two in that this is a clip point blade, which is probably again a fairly traditional British trope. A clip point, you're always going to think Bowie knives and so forth, but you know, the traditional Barlow pattern, which obviously is a British pattern, has a clip point as well. So what else can we see about this? It's not a very exciting. See, it says rostfrei, which is German for stainless. So could well be made in Germany. Certainly, I suspect this is one of those sort of generic things that Whitby have simply put their badge on. Now, it could be that it's made in Italy as well, because it's in exactly the same pattern, format as these other two knives. And I don't know for a fact, I said I don't know where this one was made, but it's a German company or German conglomerate that has interests in Italy, so it could well be Italian. As I say, it's made by the same people as they own the Mazarin company, so it's quite likely that it has an Italian connection. This one was definitely made in Italy, so it wouldn't be surprising to find that this was too. But then it could have been made in China. Who knows the answer to that? Again, this is sort of £5 or £6 knife. It's quite thin. Can't remember if it can cut, but let's find out, shall we? It's not keen to demonstrate its skills. No, it's pretty blunt. Pretty blunt. Now, it might be pretty blunt. I'm sure it would sharpen up in no time. It's an incredibly thin piece of steel. Oops. Under a millimetre thick. So, you could sharpen it up in no time. It's probably fairly soft as well. Would I be desperately keen to have one of these in my pocket? Not really. It's not desperately exciting. It's not a particularly attractive shape. Nice colour, I suppose. Quite like blue. Does it work as a knife? Probably just about. But you'd be forever sharpening it. Oh, I suppose I'm probably being a bit mean to it. You could put this in your pocket. It would work. It would cut things. It's probably no worse in the long run than a lot of other knives one could buy. But these were what I could get in my local shop. So if these are the sort of things that you need to cut things with, well, there you are. You'll probably be better getting onto Hindy Haynes. You get a really nice Rough Rider for not very much more money, and it will probably last you longer. But there you go. So if you like this stuff, please tick the like button or hit the like button, thumbs up button. And if you are interested to see more of my little knife collection, then please subscribe, and there will be more videos along fairly shortly, and some of them might even have some nicer knives than these. Okay, thank you folks.